Hello.
Hello.
Can I have your names?
Yes. Yes. My name is Nardos. My name is Isai. My name is Vita.
Okay. How old are you?
I am 10 years old. I'm 10 years old too. I'm 11 years old.
Okay.
I'm 10 years old.
Okay. Which grade you are now?
We're in grade 4. We are in grade 4.
Uh-huh. And what is the name of this school?
Armenian school.
Ah. Do you know anything about Armenia, for example?
No.
What do you want to know about Armenia? What is the capital of Armenia?
We don't know.
You don't know. What is the capital of Ethiopia?
Addis.
Oh, okay. So next time you will check history, and when I come back, you will tell me what is the capital of? Promise?
Yes.
See you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Hello.
Hello.
Your name?
Abi.
Abi. Okay.
Yeah, Abiti or Abi.
And you happen to know the Armenians?
Some by television.
And some you have seen here?
Yeah. I have seen Bahi, the young Armenian-Ethiopian family.
Vahe.
Yeah.
Okay. And who else you know?
Nurses Nalvandian.
Oh, you know Nerses Nalbandian?
Yeah, from reading and others' testimony. I don't know him personally. He is a man from long time.
So Ethiopians know the Armenians?
Of course, they know one by one.
Long time.
From long time, yes.
What else you remember about the Armenians?
They are good Christians, including Arsema.
Arsema?
Yeah, known faithful woman from Arsema who's been sacrificed for her religion. She has good faith.
Oh, okay.
She has been slaughtered for her faith, and she did not surrender for her religion for enemies.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so you will say hello and
Hello to all Armenians who like their hospitalities in their country when there is Ethiopian, and they have same here in Ethiopia.
and your friends also have the same idea?
Same.
And this is a bakery, huh?
Yeah.
How you say bread in Amharic?
I've told you already.
So it is
Dabo.
Dabo. I know uha, which is water.
Yes.
Now I know bread. So I'm adding vocabulary.
That's good.
Okay, so this is the neighborhood.
Armenia, Ethiopia, two of the oldest Christian nations on earth. Armenia technically has the distinction of being the first country to accept Christianity as its state religion, since we can ascribe a specific date to it. Christianity was adopted there in 301 AD when King Tiridates III of the Arsacid dynasty made it the official religion. Christianity was accepted in Ethiopia around 330 AD when King Zana of the Kingdom of Aksum made it the state religion. Though there's no explicit evidence from this period of contact between the two peoples, it is within the realm of possibility that there was some degree of contact. Both nations revered Jerusalem as can be imagined, thus their peoples could have met each other on pilgrimage as well as in Cairo and the churches and monasteries of the Egyptian desert. A very noticeable peculiar similarity between the countries are in their writing systems. As you can see, the similarity is unmistakable, though admittedly this does not extend to the sounds of each character but only their appearances. As far as age, the Ge'ez of Ethiopia predates Armenian writing. This has led some to theorize that the Armenian alphabet, if not based on, may have at least been inspired by the Ge'ez. Mesrop Mashtots is credited with developing the Armenian alphabet around 405 AD, whereas the oldest known Ge'ez inscription in Matara, Eritrea, is thought to date to the early 4th century, which we talked about in an earlier video on the Kingdom of Da'amat. Armenian scholars such as Rubina Sevagian and Dr. Boris Adjemian and others believe it is plausible or even likely that in his encounters with Ethiopians, Mesrop Mashtots was inspired by Ge'ez in his work on the Armenian alphabet. Another similarity between the two nations is related to the largest churches in both countries today. In Ethiopia, the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, and in Armenia, the Armenian Apostolic Church. Both of these churches reject the Council of Chalcedon. The Council of Chalcedon was a church council held in 451 AD. The main aim of the council was to reassert the teachings of the previous Council of Ephesus against the heretics Eutyches and Nestorius. The former believed that Christ had only a single divine nature, and the latter believed that Christ was two different persons. To further reassert this, the council defined that in Christ there were two natures, a human nature and a divine nature, quote, without confusion, without change, without division, without separation, end quote. This definition caused a little bit of controversy among some who would later reject the council. They became known as monophysites, usually by their detractors, Miaphysites, their own preferred term, and uncontroversially simply as non-Chalcedonian. Though, as previously stated, explicit contact between the two nations is not proven during this earlier period, we do know that since at least the early Solomonic dynasty there was a notion of the Armenian nation known to Ethiopians. For example, the Acts of Saint Gregory the Illuminator and Saint Ripsima the Martyr, both of whom were believed to be instrumental in the conversion of Armenia, were translated into Ge'ez. In Ethiopia, Saint Ripsima is known as Arsema. Armenia, and its previously mentioned King Tiridates, known in Ge'ez as Deridates, were known to Ethiopian scholars of the time as well through such books as the Ethiopic Synaxarium, or Mesaphe Sinksar, the Kebre Nagast, the Amra Mariam, the Acts of Saint Alexius, known in Ethiopia as Gebre Christos, and other works. It is in 1339 when we encounter perhaps the first explicit contact between the two peoples, for it is that year to which the hagiography of Eustatheos, a renowned Ethiopian monk, ascribes his travel to Armenia with several disciples. It is said, after his death in said country, some of them returned to Ethiopia along with an Armenian monk. We also see explicit contact by the way of post-medieval Armenian manuscripts, bound in covers made by Ge'ez manuscripts. It's thought the Armenians considered these manuscripts to be stouter than the ones of their own country. According to Richard Pankhurst, religious contact led to the compilation of a few rudimentary Ge'ez to Armenian vocabulary books. Over the centuries, several Armenian merchants were adopted as envoys and/or trade agents by the Ethiopian Empire. As we covered in a previous video, in the early 16th century, Empress Eleni sent an envoy to India and Portugal on her behalf named Mateos, or Matthew, who was an Armenian. When Emperor Fasilides expelled the Portuguese Jesuits from Ethiopia in 1633, all white people were effectively barred from the entry into the country for the time being. However, Armenians were excused from this ban given their religious and cultural similarities. Enter another Armenian, Hoja Murad, born near Aleppo, Syria in 1618. He traveled to India and other places in the east for no less than 3 Ethiopian emperors, Fasilides, Johannes I, and Iyasu I. It is thought Hoja Murad also served as an interpreter when a certain Bishop Hovannes came to the country. Hoja is not mentioned in foreign sources after 1700, so is presumed to have died of old age around that time. When French physician Charles Poncet was about to return for France in 1700, Iyasu I seized the opportunity to dispatch an embassy to the French King Louis XIV by sending Hoja's nephew, Murad ibn Madlum, sometimes referred to as Murad the Younger, along with Poncet. The Gondarine period also saw the entrance of other notable Armenians, such as the scholar of Vedic Bagdasarian, who would write a travel book, The Way to Travel to Abyssinia, as well as in 1764, the jeweler and traveler writer Hovannes Tovmagian, who was for over a year Emperor Eoas's treasurer. Already in his time, he would make mention of the presence in the Ethiopian capital of several other Armenians. In fact, in Volume 2 of his famous work, Travels to Discover the Source of the Nile, Scottish traveler James Bruce praises the Armenians in Ethiopia thusly. The Armenians of all the people in the East are those most remarkable for their patience and sobriety. They are generally masters of most of the Eastern languages, are of strong, robust constitutions, of all people the most attentive to the beasts and merchandise they have in charge, exceedingly faithful, and content with little. In the early 19th century, individuals of mixed Ethiopian-Armenian heritage played key diplomatic roles. Notably, Warke Karapet, the half-Armenian son of merchant Karabet Habeshi, or Garabet in Ethiopia, served as envoy for 3 regional rulers, Dejasmuch Sabagadis of Tigray, Dejasmuch Waba Haile Mariam of Semain, and King Sahle Selassie of Shoa. By the 19th century, small Armenian communities began to emerge, especially in the cities of Har, Dire Dawa, and Addis Ababa, which around this time became the capital of the country. What distinguished Armenians from other non-African migrants was that they were perhaps the first to settle the country with their families, as opposed to alone or with other groups of men. These families came primarily from the Arabkir region in what is today Turkey. After the genocide, additional families migrated from Aintab and Cilicia. A number of able Armenian craftsmen entered the country during this time, notably Dikran Ebeyan, a jeweler by trade who not only imported firearms but made jewelry and crowns for Emperor Johannes IV, Negus Teklehaimenot of Gojam, and Menelik of Shoa, along with his consort Taitu. In fact, the crown used at Menelik II's coronation in 1889 was crafted by Ebeyan. Perhaps the most notable Armenian during Menelik II's time was the entrepreneur and merchant Sarkis Terzian. Terzian, referred to as Tilik, or the Great in Amharic, arrived in then Egyptian-occupied Har in 1883 and perhaps helped Menelik capture it in 1887, for whom in 1889 he undertook the first of several journeys to Europe in quest of firearms. Not only this, but he participated in Ethiopian campaigns into the Ogaden region, where he commanded a frontier post. Besides being an importer of firearms, Terzian ran retail stores in Addis Ababa and Har, and he imported Ethiopia's first steamroller, a British Aveling and Porter traction engine aptly named Sarkis Babur, or Sarkis train. Subsequently, Terzian was involved in setting up an arms factory at Kaki and thermal baths at Filwaha. Terzian is regarded as a founding hero by the Ethio-Armenian community. Ethio-Armenians, sympathetic to their country of adoption, sided with Ethiopia during its quarrel with Italy in the 1890s, culminating in the famed Battle of Adwa. Besides Terzian, many others were involved in the acquisition of firearms during this time. The Armenian community would continue to grow, especially after the Battle of Ottawa, by which time the capital had its own Armenian quarter. By 1935, the population of Armenians living in Ethiopia reached nearly 3,000, making them the fourth largest foreign community in the country, behind the Arabs, Greeks, and Indians. Another prominent Armenian entrepreneur and businessman during the times of both Emperors Menelik II and Haile Selassie I was Krikorios Boghosian. Born in Bardizag near Constantinople, he made his way to Ethiopia by way of the Gulf of Aden in 1895. Krikorios imported decorations for the cloaks worn on court capes and was one of Emperor Menelik's leading business agents. He's also purportedly the first Armenian man to take an Ethiopian wife and played an important role in the establishment of Ethiopia's Armenian Council. Many other names of influential Armenians could be given. Given that most, if not all, the Armenians in Ethiopia were fellow non-Chalcedonians, traditionally they would make use of the local Tewahedo Orthodox churches for their weddings, funerals, and would teach their children at home. This would, however, begin to change in the early 20th century. An Armenian school was erected in 1918, the first Armenian chapel in 1923, an Armenian sports club would follow in 1930, and an Armenian church in 1935. We'd be remiss to end without making at least some mention of another interesting event in the history of Armenian-Ethiopian relations. In 1924, while en route to Europe, then Ras Tefari, later Emperor Haile Selassie I, stopped by Jerusalem. There he encountered 40 Armenian orphans, or Arba Lejoch, as they'd come to be known in Amharic. They impressed him so much that he adopted them and had them sent to Ethiopia, where they were trained in musical instruments and formed the Imperial Brass Band. Along with their band leader, Kevork Nalbandian, who composed the country's first national anthem, they became the first official orchestra of Ethiopia.
Avedis Terzian, senior spokesman for Ethiopia's influential Armenian community, remembers the first time these bandsmen played in public. It was at the emperor's coronation in 1931, a debut that very nearly didn't happen. In rehearsals, they had to prepare the various national anthems of the invited foreign dignitaries.
When it came to the Turkish anthem, they refused to play. They argued, they said, we cannot play the music, the anthem of a country that has killed our parents. The emperor got angry. He ordered them to continue playing. He said, it should not, their personal feelings should not interfere. This was a diplomatic show and so on. Well, they were adamant. They refused. So a big state council was invited, including the greatest chiefs of the empire, and they said, this is a problem. These boys will not play the anthem of one of our guests. They listened, despite the emperor's insistence. The whole group unanimously decided that they could not be expected to play the music of a country that had killed their fathers.
The Armenians would continue to be influential in the years to come. The community would receive a major blow when in 1974 Emperor Haile Selassie was overthrown in a coup, and the communist Derg regime headed by Mengistu Haile Mariam would take reins of the country. The period of communist rule saw the largest exodus of Armenians fleeing the country, and their numbers continue to decrease to this day. According to the Joshua Project, there are roughly 800 Armenians remaining in Ethiopia, 100 of which live in the capital. Though their numbers have decreased, they do very much still exist. When asked their national identity, they do not say they are Armenians living in Ethiopia, but rather they say they are Ethiopians of Armenian descent. Given their contributions to the country's history, it is apparent they've more than earned the right to that distinction.
Okay, guys, so as I've said 100 times ever since I started this YouTube channel of mine, I've always come to express myself and to tell you guys that the Ethiopian people and the Armenian people are of the same DNA. Okay, we're very, very connected. Okay, on a DNA scale. I would say over 60% of Ethiopians are of Armenian ancestry. Okay, so that makes them closer to the Armenian ancestry than they are to the Afro ancestry. Okay, so they've managed to separate us for over 2,000 years. If you know anything about the Armenian culture, it is a very old culture. A mix of tribal races, different tribal races, tribal people, and a lot of our ancient people have been extinct. A lot of our true ancient people have been extinct, or shall we say hidden. I know there have been survivors, and I'm talking way before the most modern Armenian genocide, okay? That dates back to before 1915 or after 1915, okay? There has always been that mix. The name Armenian, the name Armen, okay? That name Armen was better known in Africa than before the Armenian culture even came forth, because there were different tribes of Armenians, okay? Lots and lots of different tribes. So the Ethiopians are definitely the same ancestry as us, and if you look at pictures of the Ethiopians, you will find that their facial features are exceptionally very similar to the Armenian facial distinctive features. The only thing you'll see is probably skin color, but you know. So yeah, we have deep roots within the Ethiopians. And if you do, again, recall, if you've been following my work from like years ago, if you've known me from like 2009, if you've known me from 2012, 2013, I did have past life regressions where I was shown myself eons ago, ages ago, and when I saw myself as dark-skinned, I pretty much looked like an Ethiopian, okay? So, if you would like to do this research, you can absolutely do your own research, and, you know, depending on what your ethnic background is, it shouldn't matter, because at the end of the day, there's so much information about everything around us. It doesn't matter what culture you are. There's so much connectivity that has been taken away. But you can, because this vital information is out there, but it's just about really finding that information out right now. But I'd just like to say, history repeats itself. That goes with the good, that goes with the bad, whatever good and bad really is to you and to everybody. So that which was previously done will repeat itself again, okay? Whether that's to link up again and Armenians to mix up or be part with certain, you know, Africans or Ethiopians all over again just to survive, that'll probably happen, most likely.